Welcome back to Military Mondays. I'm your host, AJ Brooks. Dan Lehman is out of the studio today, but we have a fantastic guest. You're going to listen to the show on Monday, February 13th. This is your Valentine's Day edition of Military Mondays, and we are going to talk about loving yourself. The show is going to be talking about the idea you need to get that oxygen mask on yourself first before you take care of others. I think a lot of people make New Year's resolutions, and they usually die before Groundhog Day, and they definitely don't make it to Valentine's Day. So this show is going to be a shot in the arm to give you some energy. We've got Svetlana Voloshin in the studio. She is a medical student at Bastyr University in Naturopathic Medicine. She's got a fantastic story about coming to America, learning the language, a long and circuitous path to her passion, which is wellness, and we're excited to talk with her. So stick around. After the break, Svetlana Voloshin is here with us in the studio here on Military Mondays.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Hi, this is Flossie Hall, owner of Healthy Mama. I started Healthy Mama because I'm a mother of 4 and a military spouse and had a hard time finding healthy options for my family. I started this company to help keep my family on track with healthy meals without having the complicated tasks of cooking all day, every day. We offer the most affordable meal prepping service in San Diego. Healthy meals delivered to your door every Sunday. All you do is heat and eat. Order Healthy Mama meal prepping today at www.healthy-mama.com.
Before I got the opportunity to come to Workshops for Warriors, I was a hospital corpsman in the Navy for 5 years, had 2 combat deployments. I got out in August 2014. Things didn't really work out as planned. I had a hard time getting back into the civilian life. I really didn't have a lot going on for me. I had just failed out of college. I didn't have any certifications to transfer over to the civilian sector in the medical field. So I was kind of in a dark place. And once I came to Workshops for Warriors, it gave me hope again. I've earned over 15 nationally recognized certifications in the manufacturing and welding industry. Since then, I've gotten a job offer, making really good money, and it's definitely changed my life a lot. And I was in a very dark place before I met Hernan, and this is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel for me. Workshops for Warriors, it really saved my life.
Workshops for Warriors is a school in San Diego that trains and certifies veterans into advanced manufacturing careers, all at no cost to the veteran. They leave with portable and stackable nationally recognized credentials. Visit WFWUSA.org to learn more.
I'm Sean Vandiver. I'm a San Diegan and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I have veteran friends from all across the political spectrum, but there's one thing the best of us have in common. We want to keep the world safe so that we can make it a better place. That's why I joined the Truman National Security Project. We are a nationwide community forged in the aftermath of 9/11, fighting for America's promise on the battlefield, along the campaign trail, and in the halls of government. So check Truman Project out online on Twitter at Truman Project, on Facebook at Truman National Security Project, and online at trumanproject.org.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Welcome back to the first segment here at Military Mondays. This is your Valentine's Day edition here on Monday, getting you ready for Tuesday, February 14th. And our theme today is going to be loving yourself first, or that idea of getting the oxygen mask on your own face before you help the person next to you. And I've got Svetlana Voloshin in the studio with me. Svetlana, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Svetlana's got a fascinating story. Right now, she is a medical student at Bastyr University in naturopathic medicine.
Yes,
is that right?
It is.
That's an ND, right? Mm-hmm. It's a 4-year medical program that a lot of people are not familiar with. A good friend of mine, Karen Duncan, is also a Bastyr student at the main campus in Seattle.
Yes.
And you're here at the campus in San Diego. Is that correct?
That's right.
So the idea of taking care, self-care and loving yourself first so that you can love the people around you and take care of yourself. Other than Valentine's Day, the other thing that happens every February is Groundhog Day. This idea, is it spring or is it winter? And you and I were talking in the green room offline about this idea of being able to make a fresh start whenever you want as opposed to feeling trapped in something. But a lot of times we feel trapped by our own resolutions. We make these resolutions to change, to be our best selves, to take care of ourselves. And then habits in real lives creep in and you lose that energy. So today we're going to commit to recommitting to our New Year's resolutions, or since the Chinese New Year gives you a second chance at a new year.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we just celebrated Chinese New Year this last week. Celebrate all celebrations. We're going to talk today about things we can do to make the rest of 2017 the best year it can be. So Svetlana, thank you for joining us. Let's talk first about where you're at, and then we'll rewind the tape to where you've been and what brought you here. So you're a naturopathic medical student. Can you talk to us about the advantages of naturopathic medicine and how that's complementary to holistic health?
Sure, that'd be great. Naturopathic medicine really encompasses the entire body. So the mind, the spirit, and of course, the physical aspect of you. One thing that we talk about a lot in naturopathic medicine is how your emotions, your psycho-emotional status in general, affects the way that you feel in your body, your physical well-being.
I think it's fascinating that we generally only address that part of health after things have gone terribly wrong, not on the front end to try and as insulin or as a prophylaxis to try to protect against.
Yes.
We act like you're a mind with a body, and then maybe eventually address the spirit when there's a problem.
Exactly.
But we don't address that you're a soul with this human costume, this physical shell around you, and that the spirit drives a lot of the way you feel.
Yeah. And a lot of people are unhappy. I know I've been there when I wasn't being true to myself and was ignoring what I really wanted to do. I began to flail in my physical health as well.
Because your spirit and your mind weren't aligned with what your body was doing.
Yeah, I felt like I had to conform to societal norms or expectations.
Well, we know what you do now. Let's get back to what led you there. You were born in the Ukraine, is that right?
Yes, I was.
Back in the 80s. And then you were brought to the United States with your parents in 1992, is that right? What a dynamic time to be brought into the U.S. So, and you were brought here under a faith-based group, is that correct?
Yeah. The Lutheran Church in Portland, Oregon actually helped us as refugees to come over to the States. My parents were able to do that because they were persecuted for their faith, and their dream was not only to have freedom of speech and religion, but also to give us a better opportunity to live and expand and to climb the ladder, so to speak. The American dream was more than what most Americans think of, house, white picket fence, all those things. It was...
Don't forget the dog. The dog is
That's right, the dog. I'm sorry.
To the whole pack being there.
It was like the land of milk and honey. Everything seemed possible.
Well, Portland at that time was still a pretty affordable city, and I think, was it the Ramona Quimby books? Aren't those all set in Portland? I think that's right.
I honestly am not familiar.
That's right. So you came to Portland in the roaring 90s, and your family was in a refugee status, and then when did your parents get their citizenship?
They did not plan on becoming citizens when I convinced them to do it. I was 17 years old, and I remember wanting to go to school, and my parents were debating. They're like, we're at the 10-year mark. Should we do it? Should we reapply for, renewal of the green card? And I was like, well, I want to go to school, and I know you guys want me to go to school. I can't get financial aid unless I'm a U.S. citizen.
There's a practical reason for that, too.
Yeah. And I know you guys can't afford to pay for school, so you should get a citizenship. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do it when I'm 18. I don't think I told them that part, but I really didn't want to do it myself.
But you earn your citizenship in different ways. You earn it through your contribution, by being part of your community, by being productive. And in 10 years of living and working and being a part of the country, you certainly earned your citizenship.
Right. Well, there is this test that they had to go through where they literally had to memorize the Constitution.
I have a deck of playing cards that I got on a deployment that was provided by the State Department to... A lot of people don't know this. The name of the show is Military Mondays, but you don't have to be a U.S. citizen to serve in the U.S. military. It's, you sign a 4-year contract. You have to do your part, but you're basically an employee of the U.S. government in uniform as a foreign national.
Oh, wow.
But it's also a path to citizenship. But the State Department gives you these flashcards. And so I, when we were in Iraq, had one of my Marines that was studying for the test to get his citizenship. And I brought them out and was testing people who are like, well, I don't need that. I grew up here. And I said, okay, pop quiz. It's basically a 10th grade civics exam, and a lot of people can't pass it.
Yeah.
Which probably says more about how committed people are that are given their citizenship versus people that have to earn their citizenship. So they took the test. They earned their citizenship.
They did.
With time, effort, and commitment to American values, and they became citizens in 2002?
2003, I believe.
2003.
Maybe 4.
Okay. So after a decade of being here, and then you had wanted to go to school right away, but you'd attended school and then got married young. Is that right?
I did. Yeah, it was a cultural expectation. That's just what you did. You got married between 18 and 22, and if you weren't married by then, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I was not married between 18 and 22. But there was definitely something.
I don't recommend it.
But it's an important part of your story. I've read your blog, and the idea that what you do and how you live not being aligned with your values. It's not the institution of marriage; it's whether or not you're actually in an equal partnership. And it sounds to me like you were not in an equal partnership.
No, I was not. That's one of the things that I have disliked about my culture is women are not valued the way that they should be as equals. There's a real diminishing of a woman's power, and my ex-husband was abusive in every way. I was married for 4.5 years, and I wanted to leave for 3 of those years. I had written out plans in my journals multiple times, but I didn't feel like I could actually leave.
But you found a way to reassert your independence and get out of a bad situation, and then to reassert yourself, you went back to school.
I did.
And then what kind of work did you do during that time frame to support yourself?
While I was in school? When I first went back to school, I worked for an armored company, and I cut my hours to part-time, and I started out part-time as well with my education. And then I actually got laid off. And so it was kind of nice. I had more time for school. It's interesting how sometimes things happen that are actually beneficial. Yeah. So, and then I just went running with it.
I think when you have a goal and things feel like setbacks, you feel like it's actually something that's getting in the way as opposed to something that's enabling you to reach your goal faster.
I really believe everything happens for a reason.
It's hard to stay calm about it though when it's happening sometimes. I just lost my job. I'm trying to go to school.
Yeah.
So you worked in things around health after that, and you decided at some point that you wanted to be a physician. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I believe at the end of my first year at Portland Community College, I decided I wanted to be a doctor, which was a dream I had from being a little girl. And I kind of let go of that dream as a teenager, thinking I couldn't do that, couldn't have a family and be a doctor at the same time, which seems silly to me now.
Right. We were talking at the break too, this idea that in that book from that same time frame that you came to the U.S., the early 90s, The Alchemist, this idea that you've got a goal, you've got this treasure, you've got this thing, and then the things along the path that get you off that path really aren't significant, but we make them significant, or sort of hijack our own happiness.
Right.
So you definitely had a time setback, and then you had a financial setback, and then you had a situational setback, and you're thinking to myself, my parents came to this country to be able to chart your own path. I demanded that they become full citizens so that I could chart my own path. And then I didn't chart my own path. I allowed other things to control me. And then you fought your way back to being able to make your own decisions. That's a patriotic story in itself.
Thank you.
It is. So you started looking at opportunities to serve as a physician, and you looked at options, and you chose naturopathic medicine.
Yeah, I did. Originally, I didn't know about naturopathic medicine. I
think a lot of people don't. I think most people, they hear physician and they say MD, medical doctor. And a lot of people don't even know a lot about DOs, doctors of osteopathy. And I think that they're different disciplines of medicine. They're complementary, but I think naturopathic doctors have an even better holistic view of some of the things that complement traditional medicine. That's
right. Yeah. And it's interesting. The way I was raised was really more holistic than most people are used to in this country. And the more I talk about medicine with people from other countries, they are used to a more holistic approach where their doctors teach them about nutritional wellness. They talk about exercise. They talk about taking care of your body and taking care of your soul using herbal medicines and what have you, in addition to pharmaceuticals. Whereas here, somehow we got stuck on the pharmaceuticals, and they absolutely have a place and are useful in so many ways, but we're missing out when we're not utilizing other medicines.
You know, I think I told you on the phone the other day that I was looking at 12-step programs and recovery programs, and they talk about nutrition and sleep and rest and prayer and meditation. I said, this sounds like everything that old people always said when I was young, like get plenty of sleep, make sure you're kind to people, sit up straight, like posture, how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you think, and giving yourself, not being too hard on yourself, but pushing yourself too, finding that balance. That's all holistic medicine.
Right.
There's some common sense wrapped into that. That becomes uncommon in the way that we apply it in a busy world. And sometimes you've got to pause and sort of reflect on collective wisdom.
Yeah. It's how are you taking care of yourself on a daily basis?
I think integrating that stuff too. I mean, we spoke about that too, that there's this interesting sort of paradox that medical students are often very unhealthy because they're sacrificing their own health in order to advance their minds so that they can help. But it's really hard to learn these things and not be able to implement them because you feel like there's such a heavy demand. I mean, you're actually learning on the job the practice that you're about to implement.
That's right.
How to balance stress and time management and the reality of feeling like there's too many pressures and not enough ability to meet them.
Yeah. Some of my professors actually talk to us about, you know, you can't say, well, once I graduate, I'm going to live my life like this. I'm going to exercise on a regular basis. Or once this happens or that happens. If you don't implement it now, studies have shown chances are you're not going to implement it later.
Well, that's why you're the perfect guest for February, because even though most of us are not medical students, most of us made New Year's resolutions in January. And we said out loud, in 2017, I will. Next year, I will blank. And then lo and behold, you don't do those things. And so we're going to take a break. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about strategies for staying true to yourself and true to your goals. And I appreciate you sharing some of your experience. It sort of takes the excuses away from a lot of the rest of us that haven't had to overcome such big boundaries. And maybe we just need a goal that we can tackle one step at a time. So Svetlana, thank you for being on the show. And if you're a listener, stick around after the break. Svetlana Voloshin is with us. She's a naturopathic medical student, a great immigrant success story, and a guest here on Military Mondays. So stick around.
AM 1170. The Answer.
Hi, this is Nathan Fletcher, founder of the Three Wise Men Veterans Foundation, encouraging you to stand with us as we stand with those who served. The three wise men were Jeremy Wise, Ben Wise, and Bo Wise. They're my cousins, my closest friends growing up. We always called them the Three Wise Men. Jeremy joined the Navy, became a Navy SEAL. Ben Wise joined the Army, was an Army Green Beret. And Bo Wise joined the Marines, where he continues to serve in the Marine Corps Infantry. Tragically, December 30th, 2009, Jeremy was killed by a suicide bomber in Coast Afghanistan. Just over 2 years later, Ben Wise was killed in combat as well. Jeremy and Ben represent that generation of Americans who gave that last full measure of devotion. They gave their life for their country. Bo Wise represents that generation of Americans who survived combat that we now stand with as they not only survive but thrive in the peace that follows. I would encourage you to join our efforts by going to the number 3wm.org. Again, that's 3wm.org. Your tax-deductible contribution will really help us fulfill our message of reaching veterans.
Hi, I'm Bob Muth, and I'm the managing attorney of the Veterans Legal Clinic at the University of San Diego School of Law. The Veterans Legal Clinic at USD provides free legal services to veterans, active duty, reservists, and their families. If you've had issues when trying to use your post-9/11 GI Bill benefits at a for-profit school, or if you feel the VA is wrongly denying you medical or disability benefits, or if you need help correcting the characterization of your discharge, please give us a call to see if we can help. You can reach us at 619-260-7470.
My name is Mark West, and I am the chair of Surfrider San Diego. As a San Diegan, and as a person who's lived here in San Diego, we have one of the greatest coastal communities in all the world. We have 72 miles of beaches that stretch all the way from Tijuana to San Clemente. It's really our greatest natural resource. It's part of our culture, it's part of our history, and we need to preserve and protect it. And that doesn't mean I want to put a giant rope around it so it's pristine. No, I want people to go out and enjoy it and be a part of it, because that's what really makes San Diego a special place that we call home. If you feel as strongly as I do about protecting our ocean waves and beaches, get on our website. It's www.surfrider, that's surfridersd.org. Plenty of information about all our committees, events, ways to donate, everything you can find out just on our website. So www.surfridersd.org, and you can find out all you want about how to get involved and be a part of our family at Surfrider San Diego.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Welcome back to Military Mondays. We're in the second segment with my friend Svetlana Voloshin. Svetlana is a medical student at Bastyr University. She is a student in naturopathic medicine. A lot of people don't know about the ND programs that we have here in San Diego, also in Seattle. Physicians that are doctors of naturopathic medicine. It's the same four-year program that you might be familiar with for MDs or DOs, but it is another path towards being a primary care provider. And we are lucky to have her here in the studio. It's February. This is your Valentine's Day edition, and the theme today is making sure you love yourself and take care of yourself so you can love others. That idea on the airplane that you need to get the oxygen mask on your face first so that you can take care of the people around you. February is the time of year when most of us sort of have abandoned or not made good on those New Year's resolutions. And before the break, Svetlana was talking about the idea that we make promises to ourselves that when I'm done with this program, or when the kids get out of the house, or when I finally get moved, I'll do the things. And or in 2017, I'll do the things. The show's Military Mondays. We talked a little bit about this idea of self-determination and the idea of being an American, being really powerful and attractive to her family as an immigrant family, and what she's done with her life to influence others to take power and make choices and the freedom that they're provided. So Svetlana, welcome back. We promised we were going to talk about some things we could do to make better choices in 2017 to take care of ourselves, and you've provided me with some opportunities for turning winter illness into winter wellness. I know it's spring or summer year-round here in San Diego, but we still kind of go through the seasons, don't we?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So talk to me a little bit about, you're in your second year of your program, entering in your third year. What are some things that you didn't expect to learn in your program that you've applied in your own life?
Oh, wow. There are so many. I think focusing on kind of the analogy you mentioned earlier, taking care of myself first before I can give to others. You cannot give someone water from an empty cup, for example. So for me, initially when I first started school, I was a bit of a workaholic, and I was just constantly studying while I was eating, while I was on the bus, if I took the bus, all sorts of things. And
that sort of multitasking or attempting to kind of combine things so you could borrow time from out somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually suffered from some health issues myself, partially due to that. Just being in this constant high stress mode, which a lot of people are familiar with in their jobs, balancing work, family, etc.
I'm going to pause right there. I think a lot of people have GI distress or stomach aches or ulcers or migraines, and those are really symptoms of other things, and usually they're born out of other stress, other dissonance. Right. Is that a fair statement? Most
symptoms are our body trying to say, hey, pay attention to me. You're not taking care of me the way that you should be.
We're in a relationship with our body. Our minds and our spirits in a relationship with our body, and we need to listen to it. It's not funny, but I always say that I was in a bad relationship with my knees, and I promised them I would never hurt them again if they would just work with me. But I ran to burn calories, or I ran to get cardiovascular fitness. But my running was just sort of this, Clydesdale plodding along, just power through. And I wasn't being respectful with the equipment that I used and the routes that and my strike, and I wasn't being deliberate with my workout. I was just sort of pushing my body to it's sort of like just taking a dog outside, as opposed to really taking it for a walk.
Right.
I wasn't pushing my body through everything it was capable of. I was just trying to give it exercise instead of give it motion and really respect my body.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to observe those who walk on a regular basis. When I traveled to Germany this summer, we walked so much. My legs were in pain for probably the first week because I wasn't used to walking 5 miles a day.
That's sort of European part of the day.
Right. Yeah. And part of it, we were touring and doing other things, but how far do you have to walk to your car in the parking lot? You know what I mean?
Right. But that's actually a good example of a small change you could make. Instead of circling the parking lot for 20 minutes to save yourself 80 yards, every single time you go somewhere, intentionally park the furthest away that you can.
Yeah, that's a simple thing you can do.
Just to build in a couple 100 yards of extra walking. Stretch, respect your legs. They do this thing for you. I think earlier when you were talking about balance, the show usually airs between 6 and 7. A lot of our listeners are sitting in their cars in the freeway saying, that's adorable that they're sitting in a studio talking about balance, but I've got a job to do. The only house I can afford is an hour commute each way, and I don't have much left over. Yeah. And I think in a 24-hour day, there's this idea that you're supposed to dedicate 8 to a worthy profession, 8 to other people, and then 8 to rest and recovery for yourself. And it's sort of a simple, elegant way of dividing 24 into 3 little segments of 8, and I think it's a goal, but I don't think it's always achievable. But it's a good thing to strive for. I read an article about Urban Meyer, a college football coach, and he was talking about how he would spend 16, 18, 20 hours a day, and he had won a national championship with Florida, but he said he almost didn't remember the ceremony. What he remembered was the worry and the anxiety and the fear of not being on top, not like having this, I'm going to put finger quotes around it on the radio, success, that you didn't enjoy. And he left the profession, got some help. And one of his things when he went back to Ohio State was this sort of contract with himself and his family that he would spend 8 hours on the job and then never more than 9 hours. They allowed himself this 8-hour goal, knowing he would try to hit the snooze bar to get overtime. And he had everybody in the family sign it, just like you take vows in front of a lot of people. Just this idea that his family was going to hold him accountable. Powerful. Incredibly powerful. They won a national championship, I think, his second season there with that new plan. And he said it was totally different because he was able to bring a different energy and joy to the time he was there. And he said, the highs felt better and the lows didn't bother him as much. Right. And that's the opposite of the way it was before, that you didn't enjoy the highs because they were the expectation and the lows were devastating. Right. But I think building in resilience by balance is really important.
Absolutely is.
So you've got some programs at your university, speaking of balance, for nutrition. And if any of our listeners are interested, it's Bastyr, Bastyr clinic.org. That's bastyrclinic.org/cooking. And there's all kinds of opportunities to sort of teach you how to make cooking part of your recreation, part of your nutrition plan, a way of bonding with your partner, maybe a hobby. Yeah. There's all kinds of things you can do.
There's a sushi cooking class coming up. That sounds like fun.
That looks like that's in May. You've got all kinds of things. A date night, how to share a plate, sushi making. If you're looking at maybe being vegan, or this is California, everybody's got to cycle through some. And all the classes are affordable. So if you're interested, and you're looking for resources, you can go to bastyrclinic.org/cooking. And you've also got some events about the mind and body side outside of the nutrition that feeds the body. I think food is interesting because it's all the things. If you go to a farmer's market and walk around and select, it's recreation. If you really get into cooking, there's some intellectual parts of that. It's also a way to bond and show your self-respect or do something with a partner or your family.
Yeah, when you make it fun, it's not a chore anymore.
It should be fun. It should be fun. We have had a guest on the show before, Flossie Hall, that has recognized that a lot of us have just decided we don't have time to cook. And I've known people that use her products, Healthy Mama, and said, eating healthy again when someone else made it made me want to get back in the kitchen. I basically had to have someone show me to do this thing the right way. And then when it became part of my life, then now I strike a balance between, buying meals that are prepared, eating fresh, selecting fresh, and then doing my own.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a way of trying to replace doing it yourself. It was a way of sort of, bringing the nutrition in and then making it part of your routine and a new habit.
And starting with simple steps. I think sometimes we overcomplicate. We create this big, huge goal that then just seems like such a mountain to climb.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier about wanting to go back to school, but being trapped in a bad marriage and then leaving and then saying like, it's daunting to go back to school full time, the tests and the money and the this and the that, and just sort of saying, I'm going to go part time and I'm going to work part time and I'm going to do well at both.
Yeah.
And then sort of, you don't lose 40 pounds in a day or a week or a month.
No, you didn't gain it in a week or a day or a month
That's
either.
Right. You don't save for your retirement by hoping to do it all at once. You have to sort of make it part of a broader habit. And this is really about the long term, making the most of your life.
Absolutely, making it a lifestyle.
So tell me more about what you do when you graduate. I know that naturopathic medicine, naturopathic doctors are not that well known across the country, but you work in all kinds of disciplines and capacities. Can you tell us a little bit about what's next for you?
Sure. Well, I think I'll start by describing a little bit more about naturopathic medicine. Think of having someone who is a primary care provider, family practitioner. That's what we are trained in. And then a nutritionist and almost like a physical therapist, all in one, that can teach you how to lead a healthy lifestyle with nutritional medicine, herbal medicine, I think I've mentioned before. We're trained in physical medicines as well, help you with the sore muscles that get all tight from sitting at a desk or a computer all day, which a lot of us do in the office or at school.
Have you done the sitting on a ball or the standing desk in your own life?
Yeah. Every once in a while I do that, and it's a good mix because there's more movement and our bodies need that movement.
I've done both of those things. I've inflated the big, stay ball or the working ball. And if you don't sit on that just right, it runs away from you. But the first few days that I did that, I started doing that, I guess, about 10 years ago. And people made fun of me. I think in those days it was considered like a googly Bay Area weird startup thing or like a Lamaze class thing. Like this is for, and I had a guy in my office that made fun of me for doing it all the time. And the first few days I was actually sore.
Oh, yeah.
In my core. And but then I felt better. I didn't get tired during the day. I didn't really need coffee the same way. And it was a small step to sort of respecting my body while I was doing a task that wasn't demanding physically. And my mood changed. I was more pleasant to be around in the office. And he was still grumpy and sort of making fun of me for sitting on this ball and said, you must have borrowed it from a Lamaze class. That's, where did you get that thing? And then within 6 weeks, I came in on a Monday morning and he was sitting on a fully inflated ball. He'd come in over the weekend and did it. And he looked at it and he goes, don't say anything. Give me a week. And he loved it. And I think that's a great example of, you shouldn't be overly self-conscious if you're sitting on a giant ball or you're standing up at a standing desk if it works. Like the evidence is in, does it work or doesn't work?
Right.
How's your body feel?
Well, it's interesting that he actually wanted to take steps to better his health as well, but he wanted to keep you in line because it's easier to do that.
Sure, make fun of the goofy guy sitting on the giant.
Because then that means I don't have to change if he doesn't.
Yeah, and I lost weight, felt better, and wasn't embarrassed by the fact that I was sitting on this giant ball in an active duty Marine Corps headquarters building.
Well done.
Yeah, and he was this crusty old funny Navy chief that said there's a fine line between being conventional and opening yourself up to what's possible. So you're talking about things that you do. What's that ergonomics? Sort of ergonomic changes with how you do your work.
Yeah.
That's one aspect of it. Obviously, rest and nutrition. What are some lighting? I guess that's something else that people focus on.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I like is actually a blue light blocker for my computer.
Interesting.
That it's called Flux, and you can download it online for free for Mac or Microsoft. And it dims your screen, taking out the blue light, which keeps us awake at night. It dims it as the sun goes down, and then it will brighten as the sun comes up. It's really cool to watch that.
It really attempts to replicate this idea that you're awake when there's light and you go to sleep when there's light.
That's right.
Wow. Well, we got some more ideas. We still have Svetlana Voloshin in here with the studio from Bastyr University. She's a medical student of naturopathic medicine. And if you stick around to the third segment, we're going to talk about an opportunity to come in and sort of check in on your health. If anything you've heard here has motivated you to want to make some changes and reclaim your new year and the rest of 2017, she's going to give us some tips and tools on how to do that. So stick around here on Military Mondays.
1170. The Answer.
I'm Sean Vandiver. I'm a San Diegan and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I have veteran friends from all across the political spectrum, but there's one thing the best of us have in common. We want to keep the world safe so that we can make it a better place. That's why I joined the Truman National Security Project. We are a nationwide community forged in the aftermath of 9/11, fighting for America's promise on the battlefield, along the campaign trail, and in the halls of government. So check Truman Project out online on Twitter at Truman Project, on Facebook at Truman National Security Project, and online at trumanproject.org.
I tried to plan an exit strategy, but it didn't really work out as planned because you can't really plan for life. With workshops for warriors, my future is a lot brighter than it was. It was pretty tough before I came out here, but now I have options and direction.
Workshops for Warriors is a school in San Diego that trains and certifies veterans into advanced manufacturing careers, all at no cost to the veteran. They leave with portable and stackable nationally recognized credentials. Visit WFWUSA.org to learn more.
Hi, this is Flossie Hall, owner of Healthy Mama. I started Healthy Mama because I'm a mother of 4 and a military spouse and had a hard time finding healthy options for my family. I started this company to help keep my family on track with healthy meals without having the complicated tasks of cooking all day, every day. We offer the most affordable meal prepping service in San Diego. Healthy meals delivered to your door every Sunday. All you do is heat and eat. Order Healthy Mama meal prepping today at www.healthy-mama.com.
AM 1170. The Answer.
Welcome back to the third segment here at Military Mondays. In the studio, we've got Svetlana Voloshin, a good friend of mine. She is a fantastic immigrant story. She came to this country when she was 6.5 and had always wanted to be a physician. Got a little off track with different life goals and sort of fought her way back piecemeal, a step at a time. And she is now a medical student at Bastyr University here in San Diego in a naturopathic medicine program. The name of the show is Military Mondays. We are part of Homefront Media, and a lot of our listeners are military veterans that have got health care. They've got the VA. They've earned their health care through TRICARE, and most of what they conventionally are seeking is access to traditional Western medicine. And I think the military as an institution is thought of as being very traditional. We were joking before the break about an old crusty chief that didn't want to think about a new way of doing business. But as an institution, we've had to change. We had to adapt flying machines. We had to adapt to science. We've had to adopt to cyber. And I think medical is an area where we have adapted just in the 20 years that I served between the mid-90s and what I see today. If you would have told me we'd be teaching mindfulness to infantry battalions before they go to combat to sort of set them up for a mental toughness that's needed beyond what we thought of as traditional toughness to be more resilient after exposure to the things that are involved in combat, I would have said you were crazy, but it's absolutely part of what we do today. If you would have told me that we would have Reiki practitioners in some of our clinics using Eastern medicine as part of our care for active duty troops, I would have said it was crazy, but it's something we do now. So if you're interested in making a change in 2017 and you want to learn more about a holistic approach to natural health and medicine, there's an opportunity at Bastyr University for a free visit. And if you want to call and schedule an appointment, the number is 858-246-9730. Again, that number is 858-246-9730. That's Bastyr University, Bastyr University Clinic. when they're in Sorrento Valley. The main campus is in Seattle. And a good friend of mine, an F-18 pilot, was married to another aviator. And when she left her service, fantastic naval officer, just a top aviator. She was really gifted, tough girl. She grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. She ended up as a medical student at the Bastyr campus in Seattle. And her husband, a good friend of mine, was an F-18 pilot. And he's a true believer. He said, between all the compressions and ejections and all the things that most people don't think of how tough being a jet pilot is really on your body.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she really turned him on to this idea of holistic care and naturopathic and natural health medicine as a way to complement the traditional Western medicine that we use. So Svetlana, thank you for coming on the show and giving us some access to that. Let's talk a little bit more about what would happen when someone would call that number and make an appointment. What kinds of things are you going to be doing as an intake for someone that walks into the clinic?
Sure. We do a full intake. Of course, we want to know what your goals are. What is it that you want help with? Is it lifestyle? Is it diabetes? Is it some other chronic health condition? We can help with all of that there. We will definitely do a physical exam, find out about your medical history, all of that before we proceed to make any or give any advice. But our goal is to meet our patients where they're at.
I went to a podiatrist to get some orthotics, and I was asking him, what else can I do? And he said, I'm going to tell you the truth. He said, what's your walking around weight right now? I said, it's right around $190. And he said, what has your walking around weight been? And I said, $170. I said, I had some ACL tears. I had some injuries. I stopped running as much. My feet started to hurt more. And he said, if you lose 10% of your body weight, that's the number one thing a podiatrist knows to be true, but a lot of times can't tell patients because weight is such a sensitive topic. But it's like walking around with a backpack on. Your shoes and your feet are going to hurt a lot more. And I could tell he was uncomfortable telling me this, and I was still underneath the Marine Corps body max weight at the time of 196, so I thought it was fine. But I started thinking about, what does it really mean? How do I feel my own skin? And I realized that, you carry extra weight around physically, but a lot of times you carry extra weight around spiritually. You eat your feelings, because you don't have that outlet of what you used to do for fitness. Sure. You think, I can't run, so I won't walk. That's not the right answer. And I think sometimes you need a coach in the same way that you need a personal trainer, or you need someone to give you financial sound advice for the future. No one wants to put away money when they could spend it on something fun. I think a lot of times what you're asking for a practitioner is coaching.
Yeah, and we definitely do that.
So when you talk about goals, people would maybe state health goals, and I think weight is a component of that.
Yes.
Rest, I think insomnia, not getting the sleep that restores mood and heals the body. Nutritional advice, that's something else you guys do?
Definitely. To go back to the insomnia, a lot of people get into this cycle where they are in sympathetic mode, fight or flight, constant stress. And then, of course, at night, they're having a hard time settling down and settling into sleep. And so part of that is settling down a little bit during the day, and in the evening, just kind of preparing yourself for sleep.
I know I got too dependent on my entertainment or my email or my administrative tasks at the end of the day. And then my mind would get busy before it was time to lay down. And then I'd try to make a list, but I still felt like I was, there was like this sort of residual anxiety from the pressure that I put on myself during the day, or my pressure to perform during the day. And then, using the wrong things at the end of the day as sort of a come down, like too much, like a drink turns to 2, or other things turns to 3, or whatever multiple. And that's not the right way to go to sleep. And I recently did a non-medical sleep restriction as a way of getting more rest. And it seems so counterintuitive to force yourself to only be allowed in your own bedroom, only be allowed in your own bed for 4 hours a night or 5 hours a night. And what it made me do is crave sleep, get hungry for sleep. And on the beginning of the protocol, you took a survey that said, how many hours of sleep do you think you're supposed to get? And then all of this anxiety around sleep you start to think of your bed as a place that you fail to perform. And I know there's maybe a sexual joke in there somewhere, but we view the bed as a place to sleep 8 hours. And if we don't do that, we're a failure.
Oh.
You know, and then it's like, well, I was laying in bed for 4 hours, so my yield is 50%. But if I was only allowed in my bed for 4 hours a night, as soon as head goes on the pillow, you're out. And then you wake up, you start to think better about the way that sleep hygiene plus sleep restriction plus nutrition plus like those are pillars. It's a fascinating non-pharmaceutical way to kind of reset good sleep patterns and then, build backwards from 4 to 5 to 6 and sort of change the way that you view sleep in your bedroom.
I'm not sure how many people can get away with getting 4 hours of sleep.
And you can't do that long term, but what you're really doing is sort of withholding the thing you need so that you kind of reestablish good habits around sleep hygiene and sleep patterns in your own bed. Yeah. But you're right, insomnia is something that we usually turn to pharmaceutical outlets instead of nutritional outlets.
Yeah. You mentioned sleep hygiene. Part of that is not going to your bedroom or not using your bed unless you're actually tired. So maybe reading a book on the couch or something else to get you tired, taking a warm bath before bed, maybe doing some gentle stretching or yoga or some deep breathing or meditation. Those can really help someone shift into quieting their mind and quieting their bodies.
Everybody understands classical conditioning. Everybody knows who Pavlov's dogs are, but we don't realize that we are conditioning ourselves when we answer work emails in bed or type things in bed. We're conditioning ourselves to think of our bed as an office. A bed should be sacred. That's where you go to get the 3 R's. Your rest. If you're tired, your recovery if you're sick, and your recreation if you have a partner. That's like the 3 R's. Like the bed should be sacred. You shouldn't be bringing work into that.
Yeah.
So then you're conditioning yourself to think of it as an anxious space. Can you talk more about the intake process that you guys do over there? So you talked about weight and rest and nutrition. What's another common complaint when people talk about wanting to live a healthier life when they come to you and they're asking for help?
There was a survey done recently about what kind of patients and complaints naturopathic doctors work with frequently. Chronic GI issues, that's a big one. Sleep, definitely. Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, endocrinology, thyroid, etc., hormonal imbalances. Those are all big ones. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that we don't have a lot of options in traditional medicine for this, or maybe people have exhausted their options and are looking for alternatives. That is where we come in.
What's the number one thing if someone tuned in late and they said, who is Svetlana Voloshin? What is naturopathic medicine? Holistic, that sounds great, but I have a very busy life. What's the number one thing that you would recommend in terms of making that first small step towards more balanced health?
Oh, that's a tough one because it's so personalized, which is why I recommend coming in to the Bastyr University Clinic or seeing a naturopathic doctor outside of the clinic. I think for me, something that was big was noticing how my psycho-emotional health, my feelings, my thoughts, my beliefs, how they were affecting my physical well-being. And working on changing those, making them neutral at first and then more positive. Like if I was anxious about coming into the radio show or whatever else, I could think about the potential negative things that could happen, or I could focus on the positive things, what I want to share about my story and getting the word out about my profession.
So as far as like just getting a small win, you lead by example. Something I've noticed just in the time you've been here is you drink water constantly. And I used to be great about staying hydrated. I think that's like step one. Make sure your body's hydrated, and then maybe put better nutrition in it, and then maybe the sleep gets easier, and then maybe you're able to kind of get in touch with some of that stuff that you're talking about in a different way. I love that idea of halt. Like, don't have a conversation or don't try to make a decision if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Yes.
That HALT. Like,
I love it.
I very recently had a conversation. Said, you know what? I'm a little angry and lonely, and you're definitely a little tired. And to be honest, I'm also hungry. So let's revisit this later. Like, let's talk about it after lunch. Let's talk about it tomorrow morning. Let's so that we're our best selves. And I think if you're dehydrated, not getting proper nutrition, and not getting rest, like, you don't know where to start.
And you're not going to feel good.
So your body's mostly water. Give it some water. Give it some better food.
Absolutely.
And then get some coaching.
Yeah. More fruit, more vegetables, less processed foods.
All the stuff we know but don't do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a coach to make you do it.
Absolutely. Start small and you'll get there.
So tell us one more time, if we want to do a free intake and get some coaching and have a free consult from a naturopathic doctor or naturopathic doctor, students of naturopathic medicine, we should log on to bastyrclinic.org. That's BASTYR clinic.org. And the number to call is 858-246-9730. How long is the normal intake for that?
Usually you want to allow an hour and a half. It may be a little bit shorter. It could go a little bit longer depending on your needs. But yeah, tell them I sent you, and we'll get you a complimentary visit.
Svetlana, thank you so much for joining us today. I think February is for a lot of people is that time where we're already worried about Valentine's candy and showing someone else we love them, but we don't always take the time to take care of ourselves. And it's a great chance to stop and say that still got 10 months of year ahead of you. There's no chance to throw out all those New Year's resolutions just because they slipped up a little bit, and sort of recommit to a better self and taking good care of ourselves in 2017. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Oh, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. You got a great story, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Hi, I'm Nathan Fletcher, founder and chairman of the Three Wise Men Veterans Foundation. The Three Wise Men Veterans Foundation, we honor those who served by standing with them as they not only survive, but they thrive in the peace that follows combat. The unfortunate reality is today in America, between 22 and 50 veterans take their own life each day. And they do this despite an abundance of love and supportive programs, in many part because they can't overcome the stigma of the unseen wounds of war. We reach out directly to veterans with the message of hope and strength. We connect them to services that are needed. We support legislation to tackle the stigma of the unseen wounds of war. And mostly, we make sure they know that those that fought for our country have got to have the courage to fight for their future, to fight for their families, to fight to make a difference, and to honor their brothers and sisters who might not have survived combat by living a life of purpose and progress. I would encourage you to visit www.3wm.org. Again, that's 3wm.org to learn more. Thank you.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Military Mondays. I'm your host, AJ Brooks. Dan Lehman was out of the studio today working on some sponsorships as part of the launch of Homefront Media. We are grateful here at Military Mondays for all of your listener support, and we are going through a spring cleaning and changing some things, and going to be offering some new products and opportunities to tell stories of people here in the community. Here we had Svetlana Voloshin in the studio as another example of an amazing immigrant story, an amazing story of overcoming adversity and dedicating her life to service and other people's health. And there's so many great stories like that here in San Diego, and we want to tell those stories and be the voice for you, the veteran community here in San Diego. Here on Military Mondays as part of Homefront Media. Thanks again for joining us.